So weather isn't exactly predictable, and that's why it's absolutely necessary to have an insurance plan in place that will protect you and your property in the long run. Here at Dave Friedman Real Estate, we are happy to hear that our friends and neighbors recovered after Hurricane Matthew. Insurance agents provide an invisible safety net that saves you money and time down the line. We sat down with Mark Allen over here at First Capital to get the lowdown on just what sort of plans folks should investigate and consider obtaining as far as insurance goes. But we're going to get started here with some questions with our friend Mark Allen. Now, Hurricane Matthew obviously just came through, and it definitely wasn't what we were expecting it to be, which is a great thing. And but what do people have to think about when they're thinking about wind and hail insurance and flood insurance and that kind of thing?
Well, we tell people to make sure that they look at their policy and see if they have their coverage all within one policy or separate policies, meaning some people have coverage through the South Carolina Wind and Hail Association. We typically try not to put people in those policies because they're actually a policy of last resort. It even states so on the policy, meaning most of your homeowner carriers do offer coverage that include wind and hail and or named storm or hurricane coverage within the actual homeowner policy.
So based on that, it sounds like it's probably better to get a carrier that does include that opposed to forcing you to go with.
You're going to get a much more inclusive policy outside of the South Carolina Wind and Hail Association. Again, it's a policy of the last resort.
Sure. Okay. Perfect. That makes sense. It's good to know. With working with so many hundreds of people a year in real estate, and one thing I've learned in helping them pick a good insurance policy is that they're definitely not all created equal, and some carriers will include different deductibles or coverage amounts and different types of coverage as well. And so I know that a lot of insurance agents out there will give them a sticker price without really getting into the fine details of what it actually covers.
Right.
And so what are the things that people really have to know when they are comparing different types of insurance policies to make sure that they're looking at the right details and making sure they're getting the right coverage?
So obviously your deductibles can change the policy, the premium considerably. So just make sure you know exactly what's in your policy, what's not. Meaning, look at your all other peril deductibles. Look at your wind and hail or hurricane or named storm, whichever your policy states. So a lot of times it's not that much more expensive to have lower deductibles on a wind and hail or named storm deductible versus a high deductible. So just make sure you know what you're covering.
That makes sense. And I know that you and I were looking at a policy recently, and you made a comment that they insured the home for about what the replacement value would cost. However, the personal items in the home were way under insured, and because of that, it looked like the premium could have been a much better value. However, at the end of the day, they weren't getting the appropriate coverage for their accessories in the home, right?
Correct. And everybody is different in that, meaning some people want the lower coverage, but we typically try to advise what we would want to insure the property for, meaning how I would personally live there and how I would want it insured. And then we try to talk to everybody to make sure they understand their coverage. Now, we can make changes to the policy back and forth to make the premium more or less, but as long as you understand what you're taking out and or including is very important to know.
So here's a couple of questions. What do you find most rewarding in helping the Low Country residents with insurance, and also what's some of the must-have things you have to know about flood insurance?
All right. Well, for us, we try to make sure that everybody's covered correctly, meaning that they have the right coverage for the right house, meaning them themselves. I like to know that I can sleep well at night, so that people, when a storm does come, that they're covered. I know I can sleep well, and they can sleep well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then with flood, we are living in the low country, so I would think that everybody should get at least a flood quote and consider flood insurance. Flood has to come from rising water. That's what's considered a flood. I try to encourage everybody to at least get a flood quote. Doesn't mean they always take it, but people should know at least what it would cost to include their items in flood.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's definitely sound advice, especially if it's not required. Usually a flood policy is going to cost how much, do you think, Mark?
It's $450 a year for $250,000 in coverage on the building and $100,000 in contents. And that's with a $12.50 deductible on both. I mean, it's really cheap to insure a good bit of your house and your contents. Meaning, if a storm does come and you have to leave, you know you're taken care of.
Yeah, so you're talking $35-$40 a month, and you have total peace of mind.
Correct.
Good.
Very important.
Yeah, definitely. So if, I'm sure people have a lot of questions after watching this video and would probably try to want to reach out to you, Mark. How can they get in touch with you? What's your phone number and or email?
You can call the office. The office number is 843-216-2772. You can also visit our website, www.1stcapins. That's 1stcapins.com. You can also email me, mark@firstcapitalins.com.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Yeah, great. Thanks for your time, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Yeah.